The question we ask: should children be allowed more say? Should children be allowed more say in deciding what the school rules are? Share your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also on WhatsApp 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your response later on in the program, but first, as I quote.
All right, today's I quote says, "Soul are your own," and this is a quote from old people. That is what the reference says.
Soul are your own. The translation, I don't want to. Well, maybe you'll enlighten us next time, Jukal. Well, well, and who are they calling old people? I wonder. Where does old start now?
I'll just go to the break. Yeah,
you just cut to the break.
Yeah.
Good morning, Jukal. Good morning again. The first watch. We'll be back after this break.
$2 million to boost your business. With your NCB Visa credit card, that dream could be yours. Just tap and spend 120,000 Jamaican dollars or more between September 12 and October 31, and you could win one of 3 amazing prizes. 2 million Jamaican dollars for your business investments, 1 million Jamaican dollars to train your team, or 500,000 Jamaican dollars back on your card. Boost your business with every tap. Learn more at ncb.com/Visa Boost. Conditions apply. Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
Just spread the word, let it be known. HPV for the MVP, we're not alone. Together we'll fight, keep cancer away. Get vaccinated and keep it that way. HPV vaccine are what we need. Oh yes, me say that me a pray. You have to prevent yourself, cause this is what we need. HPV for the MVP. Vaccine is cancer prevention. A simple shot worth the attention. Stay protected, don't hesitate. Get vaccinated right away. HPV vaccine is cancer prevention. A simple shot worth the attention. Stay protected, don't hesitate. Get vaccinated, no, it's never too late.
A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Now, it's a much talked about subject. And by the way, this is a follow-up to the discussion we had yesterday on the Morning Watch in relation to schools and resumption of schools and issues and difficulties that arise. And there is much discussion about issues that keep coming up year after year after year. And so we're going to talk about it a little bit more this morning. We have as our guests for both watches, Michael Diamond, President, Consumers Intervention Jamaica. We also have Aniona Jones, Principal, Haile Selassie High, and Leighton Campbell, President, Jamaica Association of Guidance Counselors in Education. And of course, just as a bit of a reminder, in this first watch, we'll be focusing more on matters in relation to the economic, psychological, and social challenges affecting the resumption of schools, students, of course, the teaching staff. Obviously, there are major stakeholders as well, and other persons, parents. Lady and gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, Stokeley, and good morning to your listeners.
Good morning, Mr. Diamond, Aniona Jones, Leighton Campbell.
Good morning, Stokeley, Mr. Diamond, and to the listening audience.
Okay, so this is Mr. Campbell, Aniona Jones. I don't think we have her on just yet. So I want to raise something with you, Mr. Campbell, in your capacity as the Jamaica Association of Guidance Counselors in Education, the president of that body. How are students looking at some of these rules in relation to grooming, rules in relation to having the relevant items you need to have with you so that you can engage in the learning process. How do they see the institution that they're attending for their education? How are they looking at and viewing the teachers, the principal? What are some of the psychological and other factors, economic, what are some of the other factors that are affecting how they are perceiving their learning environment, and how is it impacting them from an economic, psychological, and social angle? I know it's a very multifaceted question, Mr. Campbell, but if you could maybe, take it one slice at a time.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. And as you mentioned, it's really a multifaceted one. Let me begin to say that, as you made mention earlier, that this is a recurring issue that are issues that we see almost every year, or not, let me not say almost every year, these issues come to the fore, especially at the
Yeah.
start of the school year. Students and parents and staff at school. I say staff because we do not just think of the
Not just
administrator,
teaching staff, not just
right?
administrators and teachers. You have all
Everybody,
kinds of staff. Yes, everyone. Yes.
right? So in many cases, students view their place of study as a good place. I want to start there because sometimes we are of the notion that when we say students, it speaks to everybody and it's a general statement. And I believe that most students see their place of study as somewhere good and has their best interest at heart. However, there are always those students who see school as some amount of restriction, a place that restrict them from really expressing themselves fully as they are developing and would want to showcase what they are learning and to explore and so it makes it a little bit difficult for them in some regards. That's how they view it, that the school doesn't give them enough freedom to be themselves, which we'll talk about a little later. And where the economics is concerned, in many cases, the parents are the one who know feels it most, because for many students, they would rather to have, the most expensive clothing, or well, not clothing, shoes and bag, and of course the uniform is there, and the parents are the ones that must take care of that. And in a case, for example, where a male pants has been altered to the point that the administrator says this will not be allowed in the school, then the economics of it chips in again, because the parents may now have to replace that pants which already was purchased prior to this infraction. And so the economics comes in there. And so it really affects the child in an extent, because there are some parents who do not have it like that. And for them now to make a decision, we will have to buy another set of uniform for you. It may not
Yes.
go to your lunch money. And so
Yes.
that student may not have enough as much as they desire for that. And in addition to that, it now affects how they feel, because if a student is accustomed to, let's say, get a $2,000 to go to school, and because of something that might have been done by them, and school rules have to come into play, and parents have to know withdraw or to get back some of those money to buy uniform or so forth, then they may feel awkward being among their friends rather, and not being able to buy certain kind of a lunch or to spend certain money at certain place. And so it makes them feel that they are not fitting in and belonging. So it's really broad, and it affects them to a great extent.
Very interesting, Mr. Campbell. Aniona Jones, you're on. You have heard Mr. Campbell. Any reactions? I think you're muted. If you can unmute yourself.
Come on. Good
Yes, we're
morning.
hearing you now. Go ahead. Yes. Any reactions to what Mr. Campbell just said, especially in terms of the child eventually not feeling as if they are fitting in because, and I mean, let me raise it. Isn't it true that maybe students are inclined to break some of your rules because they want to fit in with other persons? And
You
you know,
know,
Jones.
thank you so much for allowing me to weigh in again on the conversation. I hear this fitting in story all the time.
Yes.
Where do you want your children to fit? There's so many groups in society that you can fit into and be a part of. But where do we want them to fit? And what's the kind of society that we want? And what would we need to do from a child is in infancy to create the kind of adults and citizens that we want? You can't have your cake and eat it too. It's just the reality of it. And I've heard the line, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. If the Roman values are not your values, why would you comply? The truth is, children may not fit into certain groups, but that's not where I want them. I want you fitting into a group that you understand self-restraint, where you understand when you comply and when you push back and how you push back and how you push for change. Because there's several rules in society and norms in society that I'd love to create an uprising against. I'd love it. I would love for women not to be judged by what they're wearing when they're assaulted. I would love for my children to be able to walk home safely. I would love for my girls to not feel as though they're not attractive unless they're unclothed. I would love for them, if they choose to move around in less clothing than others, that they're not made to feel like objects. And as a principal, as a parent of 3 teenagers, well, 1 young adult and 2 teenagers, as an educator with over a quarter century, I am telling you what I'm facing now in 2025. When I just started my journey in education 24 years ago, I went to college at 15. I was a trained teacher at 18. On my 19th birthday, I was in class with kids taller than me, and I felt as though I could control my class, and I run my class, and I'm the captain of my ship. As a school administrator at this age, I'm struggling to run the ship. I'm having to put on many
And you
personalities in order to
and you
control what is happening. I had
and
a
you
different
Jones, only because of time. We're now upon a break. Hold that thought. Mr. Campbell, thanks for your thoughts so far. And Mr. Dam, we'll be hearing from you as well. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
If you want to change foreign currency into Jamaican dollars, CVM first. Their rates are real strong. You get more Jamaican dollars for your foreign exchange at VM Building Society and VM Money Express. They give you better value, and you can also buy currency online. Fast, safe, and easy. Get more for your money. VM Building Society and VM Money Express. Transform your everyday.
Don't let freshness ditch you when you need it the most. Wash your clothes with Downy Softener to keep dazzling everyone around you from day to night. Try Downy Softener now.
There is
Life can feel overwhelming at times, but you don't have to face it alone. The Ministry of Counseling and Prayer of the Edgewater Baptist Church is here to support you with our caring and confidential telephone counseling service. Whatever you're going through, grief, stress, family challenges, or just feeling stuck, our trained counselors are ready to listen, pray, and guide you toward hope and healing. Take the first step today. Call us at 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Help is available through the Prayer and Counseling Ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church. Remember, help is just a phone call away. That's 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Call now and let us walk this journey with you.
Happy, cause you pop straight.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the first watch, and the topic is another school year, exploring the issues that seemingly make following and enforcing school rules difficult. Exploring the issues that seemingly make following and enforcing school rules difficult. And this is a follow-up to the segment we had yesterday dealing with similar issues, resumption of school and the various issues that come up year after year after year. Our guests are, 12 of our guests have returned. Michael Diamond, President, Consumers Intervention Jamaica, and a lawyer. And we also have returning this morning, Aniona Jones, Principal Haile Selassie High. Who has joined us today is Leighton Campbell, President, Jamaica Association of Guidance Counselors in Education. So far, we have heard from Mr. Campbell in terms of what are some of the economic, psychological, and social challenges. And Aniona Jones weighed in, and she's continuing to weigh in. And we'll be hearing from Mr. Diamond shortly. But before we hear from Mr. Diamond, Aniona Jones, would you like to continue?
Thank you so much. Upon the break, I was talking about giving support to the fact that it is quite true that children, especially teenagers, often do not feel like they are a part of a particular group when they are not able to abide by certain standards, such as tight pants, short skirts, a particular hairstyle, putting on fake braces. That's a particular profile of a group. And if a child wants to fit into that group and we are not permitting it, or they're forced to conform to the school rules, then they don't fit in and it affects them. Understood. I then went on to speak about the fact that we don't want our children fitting into some groups. And if we think about that from the perspective of being parents, aunts, uncles, teachers, entrepreneurs, there is a set of prescribed behaviors. And of course, physical way of grooming and presenting yourself that we would love to have our employees or church sisters, the persons on the choir, the persons who work around us to fit into. Now, I'm all for creativity and I'm a creative myself. However, school has to provide certain boundaries to allow for students to be able to understand society. It can't become a microcosm of society in and of itself in a grand way, because there are aspects of the Jamaican society that we do not want to continue. So we don't want our girls to be assaulted. We don't want our boys to feel it's okay to say some things to a girl. We do not want our girls to be or our boys to be particularly aggressive or to respond in a particular way. We want them to understand what's appropriate for certain areas and certain spaces, and for them to be able to shift and adjust themselves accordingly. We can all agree with those things. I think the big question is, where is the line? Now, in a situation like mine, I have more affluent students who have people supporting them from overseas, and they're able to dress a particular way and wear certain name brand stuff, and it creates issues in the school because we are struggling with things such as theft. We're struggling with good old-fashioned Jamaican bad mind. We have to manage what children bring into school. The other day, a ski mask got stolen, and the ski mask cost about $9,000 something, just under $10,000, and that ski mask was stolen. And we had one hell of a fight. A chair got involved and a table was thrown, and a teacher had to physically put himself in the middle of it to safeguard children because a ski mask got stolen. Is a ski mask allowed in school? No. Did you wear it through the gate? No. Did you keep it in your bag? No. Him have to show him friend. And these are the kinds of things that is preventing us from being able to get the children certified, to get them as literate and numerate as we need to get them to understand how to manage behaviors, how to make good choices, how to understand consequences. When I said to the child, have you ever been to the airport? No. Okay. In the airport, they tell you all unaccompanied baggage or luggage will be taken, will be confiscated. If you leave your things, you run the risk of and just working them through the choices that they're making now and living amongst people and people being who they are and taking some responsibility. It's a tough world out here. And so, as administrators, I'm not saying we're getting it right all the time, but we're trying our very best to create a harmonious school environment that will allow the children to learn a little bit more than just math, English, science, that they'll understand the rules of society, how society operates, what it takes to live amongst people of varying beliefs, and how they can demonstrate what I call the self concepts: self reliance, self esteem, self discipline, self restraint, and others, so that they can not only take up their rightful place in society, but they can respect when others are taking up theirs. And it is more than just uniforms, it is the thought process that goes behind the non compliance that I'd love Jamaica to think about.
Aniola Jones, you have said quite a bit, but I want to ask you this. Is Haile Selassie High a government-run school, or is it
It's a government institution,
it's
100%,
not
not
one?
affiliated to any church, trust, or any other interest group. And ironically, not the Ethiopian Orthodox Church or the Rastafari community. 100% government.
Interestingly, that never crossed my mind, but thank you for that as well. And are you allowed to apply biblical principles in your learning space, your school space?
I am very
And
grateful that yes, we are. And this is something that we've agreed upon. We're actually in the process of redoing our handbook that guides us to ensure that we have settled in on what is the principle behind our processes and ensure that the children understand that so that they can take that thinking with them when they leave.
because as you spoke, this scripture came back to me as you spoke. Proverbs 22, verse 6, which states, train up a child in the way he should go. Of course, he or she should go. And when he's old, he will not depart from it. And I can see you're having quite a bit of challenges training up the students.
Absolutely. Yesterday, I was on the road along with 3 other members of my team, and we were in a particular community, and we had to go wake children up and get them out of bed at 9 o'clock and march them to school. As an administrator, that's the extent to which my team and I are willing to
That
go
is
to
going
get.
way above
Yes,
and
sir.
beyond the
But a
call.
parent came to us and said, his child is stealing from him, his child is doing these things, and he's asking for help, and we have to fill the gap. We acknowledge that what we're being asked to do now goes far beyond the content that we were taught in college. And I'm very proud of the team that I lead and the extent to which we are willing to go. But the reality is, this 15-year-old could tell his father, I'm not going to school today. And no questions asked. He is not going. When I turn up at the door, I'm not asking if you're going to school. I'm knocking on the door and telling daddy, open the door. Boy, put on your clothes. Miss me no be idiot. I don't care. I have wipes in the car. Get your behind in the car. We're going to do this today. And that is how it is. No, Aniona has never gotten hit, never got shouted at until I was 38 years old. Never been hungry, privately schooled, immaculate old girl. And I'm telling you, I'm having to put on my best JCDC Emmy Award winning performance to become different things that they need, to trigger something in them, to get them into school and to get them to conform. So when people ask me why I don't permit some things, it's because in my community, a certain outfit brings a certain behavior. That behavior brings a certain measure of challenges. So when you're dressed like you're dip on the corner, you bring your corner behavior. I want you to dress like your goat. So you bring your going out behavior and leave your judging behavior at home. And that is why, for me, our teachers dress all the way up. And we're very corporate in how we put things together because we want the children to shift their mindset. When they step off Plain Avenue, they must step into a different world called Haile Selassie High.
Thank you, Michael Diamond. As we close this segment, you have heard Mr. Campbell and Aniona Jones. What are your closing thoughts, if any, in relation to all that we have discussed, sir?
Wow. I definitely want to commend. I truly want to commend Ms. Jones and Mr. Campbell, because the effort that is put usually comes from somewhere that you're not taught in school, but you do have to have a passion, to see better in our children and in our society. And we know it's a reality that most of our institutions are under resourced. So it's almost as if we're giving our educators baskets to catch water, and we complain when we don't get the results that we would like. The reality of it is that it is going to continue to be a challenge until we have a collective response to dealing with this situation, because it's not just simply the rules, because it doesn't make sense for you to have such strict rules at an institution and then 90% of the life outside of the institution is whatever you feel like doing. So we have to have a collective response to make sure that these are the things that are embodied even outside of those school gates, and that is not what's happening. Perception is a hell of a thing, and that perception is so serious that we have a situation where parents are vying to get their children in a traditional school, when in fact that may not be the win for that particular child, or even the schools that are being disregarded have had good results. So how do we change that perception? Because all it is a perception. And the fact of the matter is, even the schools that are well resourced often have very high failure rates. So we have to be very careful with perception, but we need a collective response. And I do want to commend those educators that are not discouraged, they have not been demotivated, and they are going above and beyond, even with limited resources.
Well, you mentioned perception, Mr. Diamond. I'm aware, I think we're all aware, that statistically some schools fare better when it comes to the pass rate in any event at CSEC and CAPE, as the case may be. But I think we understand what you mean, Mr. Diamond, in terms of perception. Maybe the child going to a particular traditional school might not necessarily be the win for that child, that individual child. I think that's where you're going, sir.
Absolutely, because the reality of it is that there are going to be some schools that are well equipped and well funded, and the accountability rate and the alumni association that participates in the ongoing interests of that school, you will get better results. And that is an example that collectively we can get better results. So the reality of it is that when it comes down to rules, especially revisiting those rules to see which ones we can actually loosen, which ones we need to tighten, which ones we need to add. But it must always be student centric. It should always be around the student itself, and not necessarily.
We're going to be looking at administrative challenges in the next segment. So more anon. I want to thank all three of you, Mr. Diamond, Mr. Campbell, and Miss Jones, for your contributions in this first watch. And you'll all be with us in the second watch. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the morning watch.
Start your journey with a JN Small Business Loan with small business loans as little as $10,000 and up to $4 million. The time by JN Small Business Loan is
7:30.
We're in the hurricane season and the hottest time of the year. But no worries, Lanco has you covered. By the way, you're covered with Lanco Cool Guard or Earthenizer roof coating yet? Use Lanco roof coatings to waterproof your roof and also benefit from a cooler home with our advanced Thermoflex technology. Get 10 to 20% discount on Lanco Earthenizer and Cool Guard roof coating island-wide this hurricane season. Lanco, your waterproofing expert.
Well, if you want buy appliances for your home with the quality high and the price low, get it on a Bashco. Get it on a Bashco. Bashco. Be everything where you need. Bash quality service guaranteed and a Bashco. Bashco. That gives you more. Yeah, Bashco. Get furniture for your house, bed linen, everything for your kitchen, rug tubs and more at Bashco. The store that gives you more. Bashco.
Did you know that many girls still lack access to period products and that they can miss up to 1 year of school? But together, we can change that reality. The End Period Poverty campaign, sponsored by Always, is here. From August 1st to September 30th, for every pack of Always products you purchase, we donate a pad to girls in need. Go to your local supermarket and help our girls have access to period products. Back to school and me just a chill, sir. School fee paid, books bought. Thanks to CNWJ Back to School Special, I borrowed $100,000 and paid less than $10,000 for 12 months. This couldn't miss me.
Get your child's classroom ready. Start the school year strong with a CNWJ Back to School Special from August 1 to September 30. Low processing fee. Approval within 24 hours. Conditions apply. CNWJ Credit Union. Discover the benefits of belonging.
Welcome back. You're tuned into the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look now at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we have here in the Gleaner, Cabinet for Renewal. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness yesterday announced a 19-member cabinet, the composition of which he said is aimed at building on the momentum and experience of the previous administration while creating room for renewal. And we have here also in the Gleaner, Wheatley back in action. Dr. Andrew Wheatley, who has been newly reinstated to Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness's cabinet, is urging Jamaicans to judge him on his performance rather than propaganda, as he assumes his role as minister without portfolio in the Office of the Prime Minister with responsibility for science, technology, and special projects. And we have here in the Daily Observer, Cabinet stability welcomed. This story by Linford Simpson. Cabinet stability welcomed. Now on to economic growth, says business leaders. And there's reference to a story at page 10 of the Daily Observer, but it is referenced on the front page of the Daily Observer. Porous residents experiencing curfew woes again. Those and many other stories in our daily newspapers. Coming up next, we'll read for you some of the feedback from our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp question, which is, should children be allowed more say in deciding what the school rules are? If you haven't done so yet, leave your responses on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp your comments and voice notes too. 876-997-3125 using hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
Shake and go, come at you, shake and go. Step on the wheel, have to increase the tempo. Come at you, shake and go. Flavors real nice, nutrition for your lifestyle. Come at you, shake and go. The net we are kick, schoolboy football season a kick. Come at you, shake and go. Try these delicious new flavors today: chocolate, vanilla, peanut, and butter pecan. Come at you, shake and go.
If you want to change foreign currency into Jamaican dollars, CVM first. Their rates are real strong. You get more Jamaican dollars for your foreign exchange at VM Building Society and VM Money Express. They give you better value, and you can also buy currency online. Fast, safe, and easy. Get more for your money. VM Building Society and VM Money Express. Transform your everyday.
Mama work hard, for real. She do the most to send me and my brother go school. So, the dream was always to go to university. Well, I fulfilled 2 dreams with 1 Jane Bank savings plan, you know. I further my education and I make mama proud.
Save so you can make the par, travel par, graduate like a star.
Stop wishing you could. With your Jane Bank savings, you absolutely can. Jane Bank will help you find a way.
We've seen a lot of our customers make some good moves over the years. Whether it's sharing a hug with a friend you haven't seen in a long time or sharing a meal, Grace has been there. So let's keep making these moments together, because rest assured, every time you choose Grace, you know you're making a good move.
Always a good move when you're moving with Grace.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Now for your responses to our social media question, which is, should children be allowed more say in deciding what the school rules are, Jakal?
All right, so we have two responses. Edna in Montego Bay sent us a voice note. Let's hear from her.
Good morning, Morning Watch. Good morning, Love 101 listeners and staff. Yes, I think children should have more say where school rules are concerned. Not to say they're gonna try to change the rule, but I think they should have a say, and hear them out and hear what they are thinking, how they feel about it. Yes.
All right, thank you so much for that. Then we have Cherry in Spanish Town says, it's not a matter of children should have more say, but I believe as a parent, listen to your children and help them to see things clearly, understand and make the right decision in every area, not just for today, but leading towards the future.
Thank you, Jakal. Well, we continue the discussion, and of course, both watches this morning, we are going to be focusing on the whole matter of schools, school rules, some of the issues that come up from year to year, and why is it that these issues keep coming up again and again and again. So exploring the issues that seemingly make following and enforcing school rules difficult. Our guests from the first watch have remained, and they are Michael Diamond, Aniona Jones, and Leighton Campbell. Leighton Campbell, president of the Jamaica Association of Guidance Councils in Education. Aniona Campbell, principal, Haile Selassie High. And Michael Diamond, a lawyer and president of the Consumers Intervention Jamaica. And in this second watch, we are going to be focusing a little bit more on, or we're going to be looking at developmental, cultural, and administrative challenges. And in the first watch today, we looked at the economic, psychological, and social challenges. So now we're going to be focusing on the developmental, cultural, and administrative challenges. I'm going to start with you, Aniona Jones. And if you could, as a principal of a high school, when you think about what the developmental, cultural, and administrative challenges are, I know it's a wide gamut. What are the things that come to mind for you?
There are several things that come to mind. When I think about helping young people, and particularly because I have them from the age of about 11, 12 until they're about 18, 19, thereabout. It therefore would be my responsibility to help them to determine what their personal values are, not just their home and not just their community. For them to understand what it means to not just be a citizen of Jamaica, but a global citizen, because many of our children want to experience being outside of Jamaica. It means, therefore, that I have to get them to understand standards and what's appropriate, help them to understand what it means to conform without losing your identity, and how to advocate for change. All of these things used to be taught a lot through civics and those other programs that we had when we were not giving as much time to hardcore content. With the same school day and
I want
so
to
many
jump in here quickly. I
interventions,
want to intervene here very quickly, Aniona Jones. Is civics taught at Haile Selassie High?
civics is not taught now, and I am having to find a way as a new administrator of this institution to reintroduce it and to make it not about notes, which is a challenge that I personally have as an educator, where oftentimes when we're trying to teach young people, we're lecturing at them, we're not involving them, we're not giving them real life situations, we're not allowing them to speak. We don't have to like what they say now, but you can't tell from their face. So they must be allowed to express themselves, no judgment. And then you take what they say and help them now to see what other possibilities there are. Because the truth is, the most powerful thing you can teach a teenager is how to make good choices and deal with the consequences of those choices.
And in terms of global citizens, since you will not know necessarily which country they'll ever live in, assuming that the country might be outside of Jamaica at some point in the future. Or what do you mean by global citizen?
So I want my students, for example, to tell me which countries they've ever visited. They have relatives who've ever visited, what they think they know about it, and where they want to go. I want them to tell me what they think they know about the country and actually to use research skills to tell me what are some of the rules in the airport. As I said, this young man didn't know he can't just leave his bag unattended and come back and expect to find it. He didn't understand things like search and seizure. They didn't understand that you couldn't take anything you want on a plane. So even before they leave the country, many of my students do not understand that there are rules and that nobody's going to teach you these rules. When you go to the airport, you have to have the power of observation. You have to read, not just collect the ticket, but the little fine writing around by the back. You may actually want to read it and read the signs, not just walk through the airport with your head down on the phone, because you may end up at a security post, not even sure why you're being pulled over because your behavior is deemed suspicious. And what does that mean? So as simple as it may sound, these are things that don't come naturally to children, especially those who don't have the kind of home situations where they're being exposed and adults talking to them. So this gamut of what it takes to get behavior, it is an ongoing thing that must be designed and crafted, experiential in nature, to get young people to understand how to survive life and
So,
avoid.
so what you just said so far sounds mostly developmental and perhaps cultural, but any administrative challenges that pop up, well, that would that you would want to mention?
Let's start from the basics. Is my physical plant designed in such a way to inspire young persons to want to be there?
To inspire.
Yes.
Okay.
Is it that when the children look through the windows in their classrooms, what are they seeing? When they sit in the chairs, in just the physical space, does it say this is a place of learning? Does it say you're equal to? When you go home and you talk about what your classroom looks like, what do your cousins at other schools say their classrooms look like? I'm thinking about my staff and they not just the competencies they have, but their own backgrounds and their own biases, and how we bring together all of those things so a teacher can feel comfortable and confident representing an idea that even they may be struggling with. And we have to understand that too. My job is to use time well and to procure resources. So in an institution that has significant infrastructural needs, and I get $500,000 a year for maintenance, a large part of my responsibility is to go out and find partners and find ways of generating funds for all of that to happen. I am to monitor lessons. I am to monitor behavior. I am to be the link between the community and the school and market my institution and deal with behavioral issues and promote my school. It is a tall order, but I'm very blessed that we have some middle managers, most of whom believe in the vision and are willing to push to get it done, although they're teaching all day. But the challenges I have is, do we believe that this institution deserves to be viewed in a particular way? How do we want to be viewed? How far are we willing to go
Hold
to
that thought for a
establish
second.
rules
Hold
and
that thought
enforce?
for a second, Aniona Jones, because we are upon a break. I am also checking to see if we still have Michael Diamond on the platform as well as Leighton Campbell, because I'm not sure if I'm seeing them at the moment. But we will have that. We're going to take a break now. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back at the Morning Watch.
The time that Grace could move is
7:45.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the second watch, and we are looking at developmental, cultural, and administrative challenges in relation to our topic, another school year, exploring the issues that seemingly make following and enforcing school rules difficult. Our guests are Michael Diamond, Aniona Jones, Leighton Campbell, and of course, Leighton Campbell, President, Jamaica Association of Guidance Councils in Education, Aniona Jones, Principal, Haile Selassie High, and Michael Diamond, President, Consumers Intervention Jamaica, and a lawyer. Now, Aniona Jones. And by the way, all three of you are on the platform. I think at one point I wasn't sure if I was seeing Mr. Campbell or Mr. Diamond, but you're all back on now. Aniona Jones, can you finish the point you were making just before the break in terms of the school and how it relates to the various stakeholders, such as the community? And then I want to bring in Mr. Diamond, followed by Mr. Campbell. Finish your thought, please, Aniona Jones.
As an administrator, I'm the chief accountable officer here. Everything that happens is ultimately everybody answers to someone, and everybody needs to understand the vision of the institution, and that vision selling is really very difficult. My responsibility is to ensure that all the moving parts align and ultimately the children leave better off. At the high school level, they have to be employable and they have to be teachable. Even if a child does not go straight off to college, we know that our job is to get them ready. So when opportunity comes, they are ready and they stay ready. And we do that again by helping them to understand that some of you will need to work immediately after school in order to finance your future. So it's not just a matter of getting them to college, it's getting them to the University of Life, and they have to perform well. And they have to be able to take orders, take instructions, and follow regulations. And many of my students leaving us with just CXC, City and Guild certification, NCT vet, are getting entry-level jobs where they're doing a lot more rudimentary tasks and must take instructions really well, fit into a team really well, and be able to advance the corporation's goals. So those are some of the key things that we have to do from grade 7 to get these children ready by 17 years old on average. And we have to do that despite where they come from, despite what their values are, and with all the other distractions in the world.
Just out of interest, do they teach certain things at Haile Selassie and many of the other schools as well? But you're a principal of that particular school, Haile Selassie. Do they teach certain things such as maybe managing a small business, a little entrepreneurship, or
that is taught at much later? As a matter of fact, entrepreneurship is an entire subject at Cape with prerequisites that many of my children don't quite fit. So what we've done is that we've pulled the entrepreneurship unit from the NCT vet curriculum at level 1 and introduced it to the students, more so though at grade 12 than before. And that's a part of what we do. Another thing that we do here is we do have a guidance program, which is great. We have a health and family life program, which is also good. We have put a farm time curriculum together at grades 7 to 9, as well as devotions daily. That amounts to about 4.5 hours of behavior modification activities. That rivals math, which gets 5 hours, and English, which gets 5 hours, because we must compensate for all the other influences despite where a child is from. We can't say because the child is, we have to combat it. And we have to do so the same way we combat illiteracy and innumeracy. So those are some of the things that in schools like mine we have to do.
And you mentioned
in many other institutions, not so much time is dedicated to that kind of behavior change. However, we find that we have to do that at Haile Selassie.
Okay, interesting. Michael Diamond, we have heard Aniona Jones, and what are your thoughts, if any, in relation to developmental, cultural, and even some of the administrative challenges that she has mentioned? But from your perspective, sir, what are you seeing?
Well, one of the things that we have to recognize as well is what is the collaboration like with the Ministry of Education and with the individual schools? You know, for example, when you have a principal like Ms. Jones that would like to introduce certain things to the curriculum, how is it received by the Ministry of Education? Is it something that there's a tussle? Or do they just want to stick with what the standard is versus what those are on the front line are seeing and would like to make adjustment to? What is that collaboration like? And in regards to just simply making rules and regulations for the children and even how the administrative staff would behave, like, you know, who is monitoring when is a possibility that there's a breach of that particular individual rights? Because individuals do have rights. You know, one of the things that we missed is that since someone is declared to be a child, then, you know, whatever rights is just whatever the parents, you know, come up with. And that is not the case. So we have to make sure that, you know, all individuals are protected regardless of the situation, regardless of what our intents are. We have to make sure that we observe and protect those rights in the process. And
I want to jump in here quickly, Michael Diamond. I want to jump in here quickly. The feedback question you would have heard: should children be allowed more say in deciding what the school rules are? What are your thoughts on that?
And absolutely. That's that.
What does that mean for you? What does that mean for you?
For me, what that simply means is that we really.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, we really should involve the students in such a way that we can create a student council body within schools that can also give feedback into rules and regulations and also about the culture that is happening. Because interestingly enough, oftentimes when the students are a part of the institution of these regulations, there can be greater compliance because they may even come up with ideas that we weren't even thinking of. And some of their ideas may even be stricter than what we were considering. So it is good to get that feedback in a constructive manner to say if there's a student body council that, have duties and responsibilities to also review these rules and also to submit rules and ideas to us, then we, the educators, the individual, the principal individual, the stakeholders can then guide that process so that they'll know that this is not something that we're just handing to them, but it's something that they themselves came up with. So definitely they should always be a part of the process.
And you don't think that allowing children or students to have more say in deciding the rules of the school conflicts with scripts such as train up the child the way he should go, because it suggests that someone should be training the child and not the child be taking part in the training, if you see.
Absolutely. Well, absolutely not, because one of the things we have to remember is that it's for everyone. So we also have our children reading that particular scripture as well, so they can understand what we are attempting to do, and they will also give feedback to where we can offer guidance as well. So it's very important that we know that it's not simply speaking to, but has to be a conversation where we are learning from each other, because children learn from examples as well. So we have to lead by example, and also that requires us to listen, not just simply to speak. So the fact is, having them being a part of the process
So
doesn't
how
necessarily mean that we will
how
accept
far
everything that they're giving us.
how exactly, so how far are you expecting the child to go in terms of framing some of these rules? Because you might say include them in the discussion or in the decision making, but is it just a listening to them, or are you really taking some of what they're saying on board, or suppose they want you to take all of what they're saying on board? Suppose they are suggesting that you should scrap a rule in its entirety, but there is resistance from the principal or from the
Guess
administrator
what?
from
No,
scrapping
but
it.
guess what? The reality is that
Yeah.
the stakeholders also includes the students. So there are times when we do have to, and I do suggest that there are times when we must be willing to take that risk as well to measure the results, because we
So
don't always have the right answers.
let us say the children say you should allow the girls in the school to have their hair in any color, and the administrators are saying no. Do
All
you
right. What
think I'm not deliberately
No, no,
giving you
I
three
understand. But
examples.
what I would say, but what I'll definitely say to you is that it creates an opportunity actually, because we can also use that opportunity to teach them how bills actually become law, to show that you can present something, it can be debated and ultimately decided on the principles that are responsible for making the decision, but you would know that you had a voice in the process, because you'd have to demonstrate the advantages and disadvantages and the reason why that is something that we should allow, and what we as stakeholders will get from allowing that rule to be relaxed. So that gives them an opportunity to show you that they are thinkers as well. So it's
So,
not simply just to shut them down, but we have to be flexible enough
no,
to
no,
know
not
that
at all.
they are also stakeholders.
And if they want to put in braids or hair extensions that are any color, you would be supportive of that, Mr. Diamond?
What I would say also is that the peer pressure and the peer critique also
I'm
goes a
asking
long
you.
way.
I'm asking you personally if you would be fine with it.
No, no, absolutely. What I would say again, it goes a long way. So I am more flexible to the point that I am mostly interested in what is in their head than simply on what is on top of it. So
So
again,
you would
if
advocate for
they came
so
up with,
you would advocate for even no school uniforms, just wear whatever you want to wear to school.
I'm not sure if the class population would want to see that happening, but nevertheless, we would
But
take their ideas.
you personally,
Again,
where you think
for me, well, absolutely. For me personally, I would only go with that which I knew can bring the kind of results that we're looking for. So if the entire peer council group came back and said this is what they want, then definitely would be something that I would strongly consider. Because again, this uniform situation has its benefits and it also has its disadvantages. We have to be able to be flexible so that we can revisit these things in time to make measurable decisions and
Or
not
if they
just simply
say,
say one
or
size
or
fit
or,
all.
or, you, or if they say they want to wear the tight pants, and you shouldn't let them have to pull out the pants. But anyway, I want to bring in Leighton Campbell, president of the Jamaica Association of Guidance Councils in Education. Never enough time on the morning watch, but you'll be giving us the closing thoughts, I think, Mr. Campbell, based on the time. How does all of this strike you developmentally, in terms of the children, the students in the school, culturally, and some of the students in the school are actually adults, those who have turned 18, but they might still be in the learning institution up to a particular point. And developmentally, culturally, and if you want to weigh in administratively as well, but maybe you might focus more on developmental and cultural based on your own remit. Go ahead, Mr. Campbell.
Thank you very much, Stokeley. So let me talk about culturally first, because one of the things that we cannot overlook, as was mentioned by Ms. Jones earlier, that the environment plays a very critical role in students abiding by rules. You know, we are not living in silo or in a vacuum by ourselves as individuals. And when I think about it, Stokeley, and I give you an example. So one of the days I traveled in a taxi to school, and when I got into the taxi driver turned down the music because he regards me as an adult. You know, in fact, he regarded me as an elder. You know, and when I came out of the taxi, you know, students were not so happy because the kind of a music that they would have been accustomed to, you know, they could not have listened for that moment. No, I didn't
Because
ask the driver.
because you were in the vehicle.
Because I was in the vehicle. And so we know that, but culturally, much of what happens in society does spill over into the school, and it affects students to a great extent. The fashion, like that, the hair that you made mention of, the numerous colors, you know, I've seen high school that now permits hair extensions, you know, and some females want to take it a bit further. So for some students, there is no limit because
What are your thoughts, Mr. Campbell? If some of these rules were removed, you know, you can have your hair in any fashion, you can wear whatever you want to wear to school, or if there is still a uniform, you can wear the uniform any which way you want to wear it. Any thoughts on that, Mr. Campbell? I'm not advocating for these changes, by the way. I'm just asking you.
I quickly want to say that there has to be rules, and there must be a limit to which we do things, because
there must be a limit to which we do things.
Because
that might be where we have to end the program today because of the time, and in relation to the discussion thus far, we may have to leave it there today because never enough time on the morning watch. But it has been a very interesting discussion with all three of you, Michael Diamond, Aniona Jones, and of course you, Sir Leighton Campbell. I want to thank you all for your time and for your thoughts for the entire hour today. Thank you so much. And thank you, listeners and viewers, for being with us today. Join us again next week as we look at other topical and controversial issues. And of course, visit our YouTube channel, Facebook page, and now TikTok at Love One FM Jamaica for this and all our Love One FM programs. And of course, download our Love 101 app and stay connected to us, the family station, Love One FM, the #1 gospel station in Jamaica. Thanks to our producer Kathy Gill and to our guest, John Reverend Dr. Dallin Toussaint. Next week, as he looks at the issues of the day, I am Stokeley Marshall. Hand you back Love in the Morning with Chicago.
Experience the art of living insurance with Jay at Life. The time is
8 a.m. and you are now invited to listen to Forward in Faith, brought